But now let's get a little more specific on the skills that is required. Because storytelling is not just about writing flowery language. It takes a lot of variety of forms and shapes. It takes a lot of different things. It also requires you to have a certain mindset. So what are those things that really matter that we have seen in our experiences of doing business storytelling? First thing, you need to have emotional intelligence. That means emotional intelligence is essentially what? It's your ability to identify the emotions within yourself, yes, of course, but also identify the emotions in the person opposite of you or in your audience, right? The better you identify the right emotion, the better communication you're able to create. For that, you need to be able to empathize with your audience. That means put aside your judgment, which is your notions of how they are feeling, and actually try and be curious about how they are feeling, of course, with regards to a specific context. So, for example, if there is an impending merger, a lot of employees are anxious. So, what are they anxious about? Now, you could assume things that they are obviously anxious because they might lose their job, but you could actually go and talk to them to understand what is it that they are anxious about. They are anxious about a variety of different things. So, emotional intelligence, I would argue, is a process of keeping away your judgment, which is how you look at the world from your prism, to being actually be curious about what the other person is feeling. So that's emotional intelligence for you. That's something that is the basis of business storytelling or storytelling in general. Secondly, divergent and convergent thinking. Now, as humans, we are poor at doing multitasking, and that's proven by science. If I were to give you 10 different numbers, you might probably recall two or three of those numbers. If I were to ask you to recall those numbers 5 minutes from the time I told you. So the whole point is that your story should not be about 5 or 10 different things. It should have one big idea, right? So for example, when Steve Jobs launched iPhone in 2007, he didn't talk about the wonderful specifications of the phone and the technology behind it. He just said one thing. So he said, today I'm going to launch a phone, internet communicator, and a touchscreen iPod. And he kept on repeating it till the time people in the room realized that he's talking about one and the same product. So his whole big idea was that this is a smartphone because it's got three devices that we regularly use rolled into one. And that stuck on. Even for example, when he launched iPod, yes, it was iPod, he said that you will have 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's big idea, right? So in this world of complexity, making things simpler, we believe, is a virtue, is an art. And that somehow in corporate communication or business communication that misses on that point. So divergent thinking is about the only way you can find a big idea is if you entertain a variety of different ideas and then you pick one based on what makes most amount of sense for your target audience. So you find a lot of ideas, you entertain a lot of different ideas, which is divergent thinking, but you pick one idea which comes closest to how your audience feel or how you want your audience to feel, right? Or what can move them into certain action. So that's convergent thinking. That's picking one idea from many ideas. So that's divergent and convergent thinking. And creativity, of course. Creativity is to be able to see the same situation in a different light, or to build on something which is already there, or maybe, of course, to create something completely new, right? But this creativity is what really brings the juice in business storytelling. It's your ability to communicate in a way that would really relate to the other person. Okay, that was amazing message. I remembered it, like how Steve Jobs did it. So creativity is a very important part of business storytelling. And finally, persuasion. You can have a great story, you can have a great angle to, if you're launching a new ERP system and you want everybody in the organization to be a part of it and to latch onto it, you may have a great message, but if you're not able to persuade people as to what's in it for them. So persuasion includes a whole host of things. It includes, of course, public speaking, which would be how you speak in front of people, your voice modulation, your hand movements, your body language. It, for example, if you're making a presentation, then how is it that you stand, which parts of the info what you're presenting is shown visually through a PPT, which parts you actually narrate. If you're going to be writing a blog article, what is the tonality of blog article, what, how are you writing it, all of that things, right? So persuasion is a gamut of things, but suffice to say, these four, are essential skills for a business storyteller. In fact, even some of the world renowned publications like Deloitte and HBR and so on and so forth, they mention empathetic communication, creativity as very highly in demand skills for leaders, right? So technical knowledge is good for you to be good in an industry, but when you want to move to a leadership role, when you want to influence people, when you want to get things done, that's where these things matter. And these are integral parts of storytelling.